So I forgot to give my name. My name is Max Rempel, and the next question is, what were your siblings' names?
Okay, so I'll go from oldest to youngest. And the first four of my siblings are my half siblings. We share a mother, but we had different fathers. So the first four are Sandra, Rex. Well, I'll say the second middle. It was Sandra, Ruth, David, Rex, Denise, Ann, and Judy Margaret. Those are the first four siblings. And then it was my sister Elizabeth Rhonda, and I'm Jeanette Carolyn. And then I have a brother, Peter Ronald. Ronald was my father's name. And then my youngest sibling was Miriam, and she was Miriam Violet, because Violet was my grandmother's name, my other grandmother. So that's all of us.
So give a picture of surroundings. Like how many people were around? What were the years? What was the political situation? What was the town where you lived?
We lived kind of a little bit south. If you've heard of Massey University, Palmerston North, which is in Palmerston North in the North Island. We lived there when I was just after I was born until about the age of 5. I started school there, and at that time, two of my older siblings were away starting university, and the other two were in high school. And then we moved to a very isolated farm on the Coromandel Peninsula of New Zealand, the North Island. And I can remember my two half siblings, the ones that Judy and Anne were doing correspondence school, because there was no school, there was no high school where that was how isolated it was. They did that for a couple of years till they finished high school. Yeah.
So, tell me about your father.
Oh, my dad was. I'm just thinking what he did after he grew up. He was like. He did the army training the way, because I guess he was born in 1934, so he did some army training, but he never fought in a war or anything like that. And then he went straight into being like shepherding, being a farmer, sheep farming, that kind of thing. Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, it was never diagnosed, but my father was always running to the bathroom, and I think. No, he became a baker after we moved from the last farm that we had. When I was in high school.
But is he one of the Finnish descent?
Yeah. Yes.
Because that's where celiac comes from.
Yeah, okay. I knew he was to blame. Yes. We always suspected, after celiac became a diagnosed condition, we always thought that he had that, yeah. And his grandmother, I don't know what about her digestion, but her mother, my grandmother, the Finnish one, Adina, she always had digestive problems too, but she thought it was because she actually had a tapeworm or something they found, and it was and they said, you probably got it when you ate raw fish, and so my father always had a fear of eating anything slightly undercooked, so he never ate raw, rare meat, like, people eat rare meat. He always wanted it well cooked. He would never have eaten sushi.
So was there any Finnish culture, leftover of Finnish culture?
In my family, no, because we weren't near anyone Finnish. My grandmother came to stay with us when my youngest sister was born, and she brought, and I still have it in my house, a really old, it's from her grandparents brought it over, just her parents. So it's from like 1900 or something, a very old English-Finnish, it's, Suomi, it says Suomi, whatever, dictionary. And so I still have that. And she was going to teach us Finnish, and she taught us a couple of words, but then she had to go back to her own house after mine.
So how did you know?
My sister, one of my other siblings became quite friendly via email with some of our other cousins, because my grandmother had a brother. We called him Frederick, whose name was Fred, and he had some children, and one of them was Ivan, or Ivan, I guess you can. And so they researched our history there, and my sister thinks that's one at least of them. I have where they came from, but one of them was supposedly maybe Sami, but I don't know for sure. I haven't got anything to back that up. I didn't do my own research, so.
So was there a connection to non-Zealand relatives, like to Europe?
Oh yeah, because my grandfather, the one that my Finnish grandmother married, Leonard, he had one parent from England and the other parent his mother. So my great grandmother, who I never knew, on his side, she was a German. So I have some German, and then on
What's German?
German from Germany, yeah. But no one ever spoke about her, and I guess it was because after World War II and that, people didn't really want to advertise the fact if they came from Germany. So it was a bit silly.
Is
but
it your ancestry German?
yeah, I have some German, and then I have a lot of British. I have French. I have UK. Anything from England, a little from that whole area: England, Ireland, Scotland, and then France and Germany.
So what is your closest German ancestor?
My great grandmother.
Pure German?
Yes.
Great mother.
No, great grandmother. Like my grandfather, who was Leonard, his mother was German. He may have had a bit at some point. Which Leonard are you talking about?
Sorry, that's what I was trying to think of.
My granddad. Ronald Frederick. Yeah. I never knew him with a beard. I never saw my granddad, the Leonard, with a beard. He was always clean shaven.
Did you have any entrepreneurs, commerce people, business people in the family?
Well, my husband, I don't know. On my side of the family, no. No, not really. Well, actually, on my mother's side, she had an uncle. It was her mother's brother. Started one of the biggest he had a rose. What do you call it? Roses, like a flora. Like he grew them and he developed new strains of like a farm, like a rose farm, rose garden, and rose farms. It was called Bell because his that was my nana's my grandmother on my mother's side's name was Bell. Her
Bell, like
Bell, and she married an archer. So her brother's name was Lawrence Bell, and he started Bell's Roses, and that was a very, very big, I don't know if they're still around, but it was a really big organization. They just, they bred, like, if you call it breeding roses. They bred roses and grew them, and they were in Auckland, the biggest city of, it was about the only entrepreneurial one I can think of.
Did anyone had higher education?
Not really. I think I might have. One of my uncles on my nana's side was a doctor, but I don't even know if he left England. He was one of the ones that stayed. He didn't come to New Zealand.
Did anybody fight in any wars?
Yes, on my English grandmother's side, yes, because they used to tell us stories about a particular uncle who was a pilot, and his plane was shot down, but he survived. And there was some gory story about how he was lying and he couldn't really see properly, but he felt around and felt something, and it was his eyeball had come out of his socket. So yes, can you? I don't know why we have all these gory stories. I think I just remember all those kind of stories. They probably told us other ones too. I did have an auntie who was she had her own entrepreneurial business, and she sewed, those like plush toys. Really, she was a really good sewer, and she said she had a room full of soft toys, and she used to give them to like the children's hospital and make them for children. So if you can call that a business, she did that. Yeah.
Did you have any crazy relatives?
Probably, definitely. I had a few that had some funny little tics and things, but I mean nothing that was overtly crazy.
So in terms of creativity, the music was among your relatives, right? Any other creative things, or more about music?
Mary, yeah, she does art. Yeah, Miriam, my sister. Yeah, she has her own business. And she teaches art classes she goes to some senior centres and that, and she teaches art classes.
She's New Zealand?
Yes. No, she's in Australia, sorry. She lives in Australia.
Okay, so any more creative stuff like writing, any other creative things?
Yes, my mother's sister, the one who did that was Auntie Doris. She died pretty young though, but She was the one that had the choir and wrote songs. And she, yeah.
Doris
So.
was pretty hot.
What are you talking?
Is that the one?
And Doris was pretty hot.
Was she not?
No.
Which one was it?
So what about connections with Australia?
Well, two of my older siblings, Sandra and Rex, went to try getting better jobs than what they could find in New Zealand. So they went to Australia, and then my parents followed, and then a lot of my family live now in Australia, and I've only got one. Like, I have plenty of cousins and aunts and things in New Zealand, but I have one sister still in New Zealand, Judy, in Wellington. But all the rest of my immediate family now live in Australia.
So how did you leave New Zealand?
I went to travel around for 2 years, and like working and traveling around Europe and England. And then I went back to see my parents who were living in Australia. And I was always intending to go all the way back to New Zealand and just pick up my life where I had left it. But then I ended up staying with my parents. They had a little, like a granny flat behind their house. So I stayed there, and then I decided to go back to college there, where I did information.
What's information science?
It was basically like a fancy name for like a librarian.
Yeah.
But the internet was a librarian. Yeah. But the internet was just starting then, so we were we were given these little 20-minute slots on the internet where you could. I remember doing like some basic things like basic COBOL and that, but I really didn't like that aspect of it. I just cared about.
Why did you choose it?
Basically because I wanted to work in a library.
You did?
Yeah, and I have done. I have worked in a law library, which was boring, as a children's librarian, kind of, and I enjoyed that. But yes.
So you wanted to work in a library, and you did work in a library.
Yes, but not for all that long. Just while I was at the end of my college, and then at the end of college, I gotten married, and then I had my oldest daughter Charlotte.
How did you meet?
Yes. Well, we just met. I had actually gone in, taken the train from my parents' house, which was an hour outside Sydney. I took the train. And a sleeping bag, and I slept on the floor of somebody I didn't even know. It was just the brother of my sisters at the time. I don't think they were married. My sister Elizabeth was eventually got married to someone called Wayne, but they may have been just a boyfriend and girlfriend at the time. But anyway, he had a brother who lived in the city, so I availed myself of this connection and asked if I could spend the night and lie on their floor after a very late concert, because I didn't want to take the train an hour back. So I went in to watch it. It was like I think a punk rock kind of a concert. The group's name was the Cramps. I went to see them. I went to see to see them, the Cramps, and then I was going. Sorry, I was wondering why I was telling you this, because the next morning I was catching the train at Town Hall Station in Sydney, and was waiting for my train, and this person who I could tell was an Indian. Because I had not long been, I had stayed in India on my way back from Europe. So I knew, anyway, I could tell by his accent and how he looked that he was probably Indian. He asked me if this train went to a particular town called Strathfield, and then I directed him to the big notice board, which is about 5 times as big as that television. I said, yes, it's Strathfield, it does, yes.
Weaponized incompetence.
And then, yes, right, it was. And then he said, let me help you, and completely wrested my the sleeping bag, which I had a very firm grip. He pulled it out of my grip, and with the pretense, like I needed help, but it was actually so he could sit in the seat beside me on the train. So, whereupon he tried to get my details, like my phone number and thing, but I had an unlisted number, so I knew even if I gave him my number, he wouldn't be able to look up my address and find out where I lived. So I thought it's okay if I give him and that's how we met, and we talked on the phone for a few months before we ever went out.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Did you know that you guys met on the train?
Really? You met
we met at an airport.
Isn't that
Me and Andre.
all traveling thing? Wow. Yeah. You met it on train station too?
To keep it moving.
Oh, wow.
How did you meet?
With Tanka?
Yeah.
Actually, we met before the train, but it was
Exactly.
At a train.
But then we sort of
station?
courted at the train. Yeah.
Ah, yes.
Before we just met, but on the train we were we were singing together. Yeah,
Oh no.
yeah. I was singing, and she was very nicely doing the
Harmony. She harmonized.
harmonized. Oh, yeah.
Oh my
yeah.
gosh! Wow.
So she was like very, very sort of good supporter at that time.
Thanks enough.
Get her drunk.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Don't bang your ear out.
I knew she must. I knew that they must both enjoy music because you've told me before that they have those standing like they belong to yes and all those. They go to that concert series and stuff.
Dude, the Cramps are sick.
Yeah, I did when they came to
I
Sydney.
listened to the Cramps recently.
Yeah.
You can see interviews of Ringo
Cool,
Starr.
yeah.
Yeah, my God.
And they're good. They're good.
Yeah.
I'm impressed at that particular.
So what year was it?
That was in 1986. That was 86. Oh, and I know why he grabbed hold. He wanted to talk to me. He saw on my way before I went to the station. I went to a music store. There used to be a store called I can't remember.
Records.
Not Tower. It was
Capitol Records.
no. It doesn't matter. Phantom
Records.
Record.
there you go.
I think something like that. I went to the record store and bought this record called Monsoon, and it's this Sheila Chandra. So it was an Indian woman. She was wearing a sari with it kind of veiled over her head. So you could tell there was a photograph of an Indian woman. I think he saw me carrying that under my arm. It was a vinyl. It was called Third Eye or something actually.
What,
I didn't go to see too many live concerts, to tell you the truth. I went to see another good one called. I'll let you know when I.
this isn't about ancestry.
Yes. But that's.
Pets?
Did I have pets?
Yes, that's ancestry.
We talked
Oh,
about
we had cats. We had Arnold, a pig. We had a pig called Arnold on one farm, and then we had pets. And when there was one of the when I was really like about 4, there's a photo somewhere, a slide of me sitting on a little calf. It was a little bobby calf that had been abandoned by its mother, or the mother, something happened. So we looked after. We raised this little calf. We gave it those little bottles. We had a little lamb. Yeah.
Ooh.
At one point, that was the
tough
one.
as part of when you
that, yeah.
live on a sheep farm.
Oh,
what happened to your
They happened a
little
lot
lamb?
actually. The lamb, because if
Then
the
you had
mother,
a little-
no, if the mother dies or it gets rejected or something like that, then my father
to
would bring the
raise it.
lamb, and we had special little bottle. They had these really long teats like that, and you would just feed them.
Then
Yeah.
what happens to them
Huh?
after you name
Best
it?
friends
Another-
Yeah, it grew up, and we would just kind of let it go back out into the fields, kind of thing. Once it got bigger, that one didn't get to grow up. There was a sad story attached to the last one. Yeah.
No, say it isn't so.
We had a little lamb. I'm just trying to think of its name. Oh my gosh, the name is I'm blanking on its little name, but it was a really cute little lamb. And I had an uncle who came, and this is why one of my grievances against dogs is he had a big German Shepherd dog that completely lost it and went crazy when it saw all the sheep and everything. It ran after our little, oh God, his name it almost came to me. Ran after our little lamb and just bit its back leg right off. And Dad had to take it he took it into the bush, and he shot it without telling us. We didn't know, and we had to shoot the lamb because
Well, yeah, I mean, it had
you can't trust all dogs, can you? And this was a beloved pet that they used to boil, really nice cuts of meat for it and give it just specially. They were hand fed it, and it was never so it was a very pampered animal. But I guess it just went a little wild when it was on the farm.
Did you have any witches in the family?
Witches? No, unfortunately. That would have been. I wish. I think my daughter Charlotte and Catherine was there too. When Charlotte had gone to what was the name of that conference that she had to go to? The WHO, World Health Organization. She had to go there because of PLOS.
So
She
that-
went.
Yeah, she was giving some talk on neglected tropical diseases.
Yeah, so she was at the if people call it WHO or WHO conference in Geneva, and we went there at the same time, and Catherine and I waited for a couple of days till she'd finished with the concert, and then we took a trip to the UK, to Cornwall and Devon, and while we were there we visited this a witch museum. And do you remember the name of that, the warlock or the male witch called Alistair somebody?
Alistair Crowley?
It's something like that. You know, I know you're referring to. I know what you're referring to. Angels and but no, there is that's based on an actual real person, Alistair something, and he was a witch. And we went to this.
He's a real guy.
Right, well, so we went to see to this museum where kind of like round near where he lived and whatever, and there were you could look at some artifacts, and then you could. So they've always been interested, like Charlotte too, but I don't think either of you
Being a little
practice
witchy?
Wiccan or anything.
No, we just do spells and stuff.
Oh, I tried to do spells too, but nothing ever comes. In
Cool,
I've cursed a few people.
Honestly, my cousins like kind of dissolved at this point, so
Yeah.
you know, we
Who was the weak link of that kind?
I've often wished that I could, practice that kind of thing, but unfortunately, no. Nothing interesting like that. So I come from a pretty boring background. I'm sorry.
So among spiritual people, like there was a preacher, right? Anyone else?
No, not really. I don't think anyone really. Most people kind of steered clear of that kind of thing because they could see the problems that my mother had with it when she was younger, and they just weren't really interested in that. It's not that they didn't read books on religion or philosophy or that sort of thing, but no one really practiced it. We didn't have anybody who had weird food preferences or anything like that, you know.
Any special talents and any relatives?
On my mother's side, I think we're pretty artistic. So my mum could paint and draw. She was quite good at that. My sister is an artist. My mother's mother, my nana, my English grandmother, was she had some things that she had painted hanging on her wall. So they were all pretty good at art and music. They were all good at art and music. I guess they're sewing. My mum was a very good sewer. She sewed all our clothes. Yeah.